When you see a person on top of a mountain, they didn't fall there. It was a drudged climb. It was effort. They had to stumble. They had to get themselves up again and keep going. When we want to get good at anything, when we want to be on top of the mountain, it doesn't magically happen. We need to understand that we have to put in the work. And at first, we suck. We're not good at it. This same concept is true with professional networking and the skills required to do it well. If you know somebody or you see somebody that you think is good at professional networking, they worked on skills. They didn't wake up one day and suddenly be good at professional networking or any of the skills required. So a couple things need to happen. Professional networking, we know, is the most cost-effective way of marketing, of telling people about who we are, what we do, what we represent. How we do that, how we gain the skills to do that takes work and effort. To become good at telling people in a way that those people want to tell others takes effort. So in addition to the skills that we have within our profession, there are skills that we need to learn for marketing, and there are skills specifically within marketing that we need to learn for professional networking. I want to talk here about the difficulty of learning some of those skills, and it can be any skill. You decide which skill. You decide what you want to improve on. In order to do that, it first takes an evaluation, what I call a personal inventory. What skills, what tasks do you feel uncomfortable doing in your networking? Do you feel uncomfortable meeting new people? Do you feel uncomfortable carrying on a conversation? Do you feel uncomfortable telling your story in a way that's not bragging? Do you feel uncomfortable having a follow-up conversation with people in your network about referrals that you've received? Do you feel uncomfortable giving referrals? There's lots of different skills. You get to take the inventory, your personal inventory, of which of these skills that you want to strengthen. You may decide that you want to strengthen a skill that is already strong for you. That is a good method. You may decide that you want to strengthen a skill that is weak for you. That's also an appropriate method. What I want you to understand is that you decide which skill you want to improve. When you take that inventory and when you begin to develop a skill, maybe that you don't even have yet or you've never considered, understand that at the beginning, you're going to suck. You're not going to be good at it. And that's okay. One of the pitfalls that we have is we look at things that we're weak at and we think, oh, I'll never be good because, and we invariably compare ourselves to somebody else, somebody who's standing on top of that mountain. That's not being fair to yourself. We're all guilty of this. It happens to all of us. But at that moment, we have the opportunity to take an inventory. But at that moment, we have a chance to recognize what we're doing. We're comparing ourselves to somebody on top of the mountain and not somebody at our level. So if you see somebody on top of that mountain, if you will, somebody who's already good at a specific skill you want, I want you to back up a little bit, understand that there was a time that they sucked at that skill also. And if you really want to learn what they've done, then go look at where they were when they started and not where they are now. What steps, what side of the mountain did they begin from? That's more appropriate if we're going to learn from somebody who's doing something well. Look at where they started, not where they are. And then set a plan. You decide, what are you going to do to make the improvements? And then implement that plan. A couple things are going to happen here. It's going to be hard. It's going to be very, very difficult to not just implement, but to continue on the plan. Another thing that's going to happen is you're going to recognize that you may have set the plan wrong. So revise your plan, but only revise it after you've worked the plan thoroughly. So you can take an inventory and say, this isn't getting the results I want, and I have legitimately put in the effort. Then go ahead and tweak your plan. Don't throw it away. Don't disregard it. Don't jump into the fixed mindset, as Carol Dweck says in her book, of I'll never be good at this. The reality is you're not good at this yet. Please, when taking those harsh inventories, when we're recognizing that we're weak in something, please add the word yet to the end of your evaluation. I'm not good at that yet. I have the privilege of watching our youngest grandchild as she's learned to walk and now run. And it's been really interesting to recognize that her, as well as all children, they want to walk because they're mimicking the surroundings and the people around them that they honor. And in the walking sphere, the grown-ups in their world are on the mountain of walking. That little grandchild attempts to walk and falls, and attempts to walk and falls, gets frustrated, crawls a little bit more, and then something happens and they attempt to walk again. They never seem to lose that enthusiasm to learn. They also never seem to get down on themselves and be frustrated with themselves and label themselves. Some level I don't fully understand. They seem to understand they can't walk yet, and they keep doing it. Now this little grandchild is learning to run with great enthusiasm and giggling the whole time, even when she falls, gets back up and runs again. It's a game. It's difficult. It's hard. She doesn't give up. That's true with all of our skills in our life. When we learn to speak, when we learn to talk, when we learn a new language, all of those skills are difficult at first. We are at the bottom of the mountain. When we're at the bottom of any skills mountain, please understand that when you compare yourself to people on top of that same mountain, you are not being genuine to yourself. And actually, you're providing yourself with an excuse to stop moving forward. So keep working it. It's going to be frustrating. The other thing as we learn these skills, it's going to get boring. We're going to be bored with doing the same thing again and again and again. Okay, keep doing it anyway. Keep learning those skills. Keep refining it. The other thing that's going to happen next, we are going to want validation from somebody else that we're doing it well. Dangerous area. Really dangerous area. That validation may come in any form. We want it. And we're human. We're social. That's part of us. That's part of the animal that we are, is we want validation for our efforts. What happens oftentimes is we want that validation too early. And when we don't get it because we're not good yet, and we feel like we put in the work, but we really haven't put in enough work, we're seeking validation. When we don't receive that validation, we want to give up. We want to go try something else that we can be validated by. And then we start jumping from skill learning to skill learning to skill learning without mastering any one skill in any aspect of our life. Let's be willing to suck for a while. Let's be willing to not be good, to be an infant learning to walk. Let's find people who are on top of the mountain, if that's your disposition, but recognize that they started somewhere and find out how they started. That's the advantage. If we can find out somebody who has conquered this skill and does it well, find out how and where they started and track the same tracks they had, we can speed up our growth in our learning and our abilities in that skill. We're still going to suck at the beginning, but the time that we suck shrinks because we can learn the lessons from somebody else. We don't have to go create all our own lessons at that point, but we still have to go through that process. We still have to figure it out. I firmly believe that you and I can learn any skill that we want to if we're willing to put in the effort and the tedium and be frustrated in order to learn that skill. Now, you and I may learn skills at a different rate. You know, people say, oh, they're natural at that. They were born to do that. The reality is there's some things that we just acquire and learn faster for whatever reason. We've had predispositions to it. We've had all sorts of reasons why it just comes easier to us. But I really dismiss the idea that you can't learn a skill. Now, if there's physiological reasons or such. For example, I'm probably at my age and my height not going to dunk a basketball. Okay, I have to accept that physical limitation. But that's not what we're talking about here. We're talking about skills that relate to business. If somebody else has learned a skill, I can learn it also. The question is, do I want to? And am I willing to put in the time and effort in order to learn that skill? That's a different question. And those are hard questions. I want that skill. I wish I had that skill is far different than I'm going to go get that skill. When we are thinking along the lines of, wow, that person's so good, I wish I could do that, we're really treading close to the idea of envy and jealousy. So let's back off of that. Let's instead evaluate. That person has the ability to speak comfortably to people they just met. If you don't have that skill, how do you get that skill? Create a plan. Go do it. You have the option. You have the ability. Are you willing to put in the work? You're not going to do well at the beginning, but you can put in the work and you can gain that skill. And the validation usually comes unexpectedly. Sometime later, people go, oh, you're just such a natural at this. And they don't recognize that you're not. You had to climb the mountain too. So in regards to professional networking, there are multiple skills that go into making us good and proficient at marketing in general, specifically our networking intents. Evaluate those skills that you have. Find somebody who's good at that skill. Learn from where they started, implement a plan, and be diligent. Put in the time and effort. It will make a difference. I will admit to you that some people learn faster than others. So what? There are some skills that have taken me a long time to learn, but I've learned them. Other skills seem to come pretty comfortably and easily to me. I still had to go through the process of learning them. It's the return on the investment of the learning and the reps, if you will, of going through the process again and again and again, falling, scraping my knees, getting up, doing it again and again and again. Sometimes it takes longer than I want it to. Sometimes it seems easier than I thought it would. It doesn't matter. If it's hard, do it. If it's easy, do it. When we evaluate things as difficult or easy for us, we put labels like that's good or that's bad. As in, if it's easy, it's good. If it's hard, it's bad. Let's dismiss that. It just is. If it's harder for you to learn something, then put in the effort. Let's take for a moment a skill like public speaking. And you and I are both learning that skill at the same time. Our goal is to feel comfortable in speaking to crowds of 100 people or more. And you feel comfortable much quicker than me. Could be any number of reasons why that happens. It could be because you were involved in theater, and so crowds are comfortable for you. And you can read a crowd quickly. It could be because you are in huge championship games at a collegiate level, and you're huge crowds, and you are asked to perform in a sports venue. Could be any number of reasons why you had different exposures that seem to make it easier for you to transition and learn that skill. And it does for me. Your investment of time and effort, let's say you get a 4x return and I get a 2x return on my effort. It's going to take me twice as long to learn the skills as it does you. I still need to put in the work. I still need to make it happen. I still need the reps. I still need the correction. I still need to evaluate. I still need to make mistakes, even if it takes me twice as long as you. The comparison I need to make isn't my skills and my advancement compared to yours. The comparison I need to make is my skills and advancement compared to where I was when I was standing at the bottom of the mountain. So go ahead and run up that mountain in front of me. I'll be there. I'm coming. It'll take me a moment. And I'm willing to put in the effort. And I'm willing to put in the time. This is true with any skill we want in any part of our professional life, probably any part of our life in general. Put in the work. Let it take the time if it takes the time. Understand that others may get a faster return on skills than you do. And understand also that you're going to get a more rapid return on skills than other people. Okay, it doesn't matter. That's not where the importance is. The importance and the relevance lies in putting in the work and acquiring the skill, not in the time it takes to acquire the skill. So let's do this together. Let's go ahead and Find a skill that we want to increase, that we want to improve on. You pick your skill, I'll pick mine. Let's find somebody who's good at it, learn where they started, find their path, decide if that's the path we want to take or we want to create our own, create a plan, implement the plan, do the hard work, put in the reps, do it again and again and again and again, and be willing to be bad at that skill at the beginning. One day, let's look at each other on top of that same mountain, shake hands, look down the path that we trudged, and recognize we did it. We've really done it. I'm Joe Miller, Commissioner, Pro Networking League.